Tennessee Titans new offensive coordinator Brian Daboll talked about how much he loves Cam Ward in his opening press conference on Wednesday, and it should have Tennessee Titans fans fired up. I'll tell you what he had to say on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, on today's show, we are going to break down the opening press conferences of Titans' new offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll, and Titans' new defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, because they both had a lot of very interesting things to say. Before we dive in, do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. The roster moves are about to start. Free agency, less than a month away. The draft right around the corner. You want to stay up to date, as informed, and as entertained as a Tennessee Titans fan could possibly be. Make sure that you stay locked in with the number one Tennessee Titans podcast in the world, Locked On Titans. But with that being said, Brian Daboll finally spoke as the Titans' new offensive coordinator on Wednesday, and he was gushing about Cam Ward. And again, the fact that Brian Daboll is so enamored with Cam Ward should have Titans fans fired up. Brian Daboll had a lot of options out there. He was taking head coaching interviews. He could have taken other offensive coordinator positions, but he chose to come to Tennessee. And you know that a lot of that had to do with the presence of Cam Ward, because if I need to remind you, the New York Giants were ready to move heaven and earth to get Cam Ward last year. They even called Mike Borgonzi before the pick was made and joked about, hey, are you sure there's nothing we can do to get Cam Ward from you? They were absolutely enthralled with Cam Ward in New York last year. And all these Giants fans want to hype up Jackson Dart. If the Giants would have had their way, they'd have Cam Ward as their quarterback, not Jackson Dart. And I want to play you this clip, courtesy of TennesseeTitans.com, where Brian Daboll talked about why he chose Tennessee. And again, the love for Cam Ward was obvious throughout.
Yeah, I'd just say it felt like the right fit with the right people. Obviously have a relationship with Robert dating back to the New York days, but his vision of what he wants to do and how he wants to do it, Mike and the vision that he has, and then ultimately Cam was a big factor. Have a lot of confidence in this young man. I'm sure I'll get asked about the pre-draft process last year, which was about this time. Had a lot of touch points with him, meetings, 30 visits, going down to Miami, dinner with him and his family. So there was a good relationship built up leading up to the draft. So I look forward to work with him. I know he's in the building rehabbing. April can't come soon enough to get going on the offensive installation part of it, but have a lot of confidence in how he played, both at Miami, Washington State. And then he had a whole year under his belt playing in the National Football League and getting accustomed to the speed of the game and the timing. And that's not an easy thing for quarterbacks. So I just felt like the right fit, Buck, and look forward to being here.
I mean, I cannot possibly overstate how great it is that Brian Daboll had so much invested in Cam Ward last year during the pre-draft process. Like, we aren't talking about just a new offensive coordinator come in and help out Cam Ward and get things back on track. We're talking about somebody who studied Cam Ward extensively, who went through the nooks and crannies. If you've ever seen the Hard Knocks video of Brian Daboll kind of quizzing the quarterbacks in 2024, like Jaden Daniels and Drake May and Caleb Williams. Like, this is a guy who was asking hard-hitting questions and really trying to get to know Cam Ward. Again, he's having dinner with his parents. I could not think, other than maybe Brian Callahan, who literally worked with Cam Ward last year, there is not a coach in the NFL right now who knows Cam Ward's game and has studied Cam Ward more and has paid more attention to Cam Ward as a football player than Brian Daboll. This isn't like starting from scratch. You know what I mean? We are into the process already before these guys ever work together. And that gives me so much excitement that Cam Ward can hit the ground running because Brian Daboll knows Cam Ward. He knows Cam Ward personally from all the touch points that he talked about right there. He knows Cam Ward's game as a football player intimately from all the study that he did. Again, this isn't just a brand new offensive coordinator. This is like taking an old family friend and bringing them back into the fold. They know each other well. There are expectations that are already set of what to expect from each other. And that right there, I don't know how you could not be fired up about hearing Brian Daboll say, ultimately, I wanted to coach Cam Ward. I wanted to coach him last year. I would have traded 3 first-round picks to get Cam Ward last year. That kind of stuff absolutely has me fired up. He had some other things to say about Cam Ward as well that really got me hyped about his game. He said, quote, he's a young, athletic quarterback who has accuracy. He can make plays on the move. He can do a great job of, the play doesn't look great, and then all of a sudden, it looks great because of his ability. He's smart. I think he's got some moxie to him. Moxie is one of my favorite words. Swag, aura, all that. Get that moxie, baby. That's my favorite word of that kind of set of words. Continue. He's tough. He holds himself to a high standard, which is important for that position. It reminds me of something I was talking about in a Twitter Spaces on Wednesday with some of the big Titans fans on Twitter. It reminds me of Arden Key after the Browns game, being on the plane saying, don't listen to Cam, enjoy the wins. Man, enjoy the wins, yeah, but we have to hold ourselves to a certain standard here. And to have a guy like Cam Ward who, which speaks to me, of course, if you know anything about me, is a big Kobe Bryant guy, you don't judge the result. Okay, we won, but we played like crap. We have to play better. We're not going to be able to win if we keep playing at this level. That sort of drive, that sort of perspective, that sort of self-awareness, that is what you need from your quarterback, not, I played like crap, but we won, so I'm going to pop bottles on the plane and be hyped like Arden Key. No, we need more Cam Wards and less Arden Keys. Now, I love Cam Ward. Love that Brian Daboll loves Cam Ward. You guys got to go check out my Cam Ward film breakdown where I reviewed his entire rookie season, what he did well, what he needs to improve on. It's over on the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel right now. If you're not subscribed to that and you're watching this podcast, what are you doing? You know what I mean? We're talking all the discussion right here. You get all the film over there. It's a perfect combination for any Titans fan. But I want to move on to some other things that Brian Daboll had to say about some other people on the offense. He talked about, they got 2 good young wide receivers. Mentioned Chim Dike by name. Talked about both the running backs, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears. He said they create yards. He talked about J.C. Latham. And he said he's excited to have a talent like J.C. Latham at right tackle. So it's about Cam Ward. It's all about Cam Ward, of course. But hearing Brian Daboll hype up other players on the offense definitely had me excited as well, because it's not just about Cam Ward when you're Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator. It's about getting the most out of everybody on the offense. Now, some of you are going to say, he mentioned Tony Pollard. He mentioned Tony Pollard. That means that Tony Pollard's not going to be cut. There you go. Well, I don't know about that, and I'm going to talk about that at the end of the show. Also want to say he shouted out Calvin Ridley too. He said, I have history with Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's a good player in the NFL, and I'm excited to work with him. So love that he's kind of hitting on all the points here. But again, just because Brian Daboll mentioned somebody during the press conference doesn't mean that their position on the roster is secure. And again, I'll talk more about that at the end of the show. But now we got to talk about something that Gus Bradley said, because Titans defensive coordinator Gus Bradley had a very specific answer about what he wants from the edge rushers. And I think it might tell us quite a bit about what to expect in free agency and the draft. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which might just be a sleeper. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5 Hour Energy has a wide variety of flavors. There is something for everyone. 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with 0 sugar. For my top pick in the 5 Hour Energy draft, I'm going with grape, man. I love the Concord grape flavor. It's similar to like a grape juice or candy. It's soft. It has a rounded sweetness to it that I really enjoy. It's smooth. It's almost a syrup-like fruit profile. It's consistent. It's straightforward. It's that classic purple candy style finish. Absolutely love it. And for a sleeper, the peach mango, man. I love the peach mango as well. But you need to find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots. They're available online at 5hourenergy.com, or you can go to Amazon. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is also brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position that you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire, and that's a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, the skills, the experience, the location. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. And in the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support my show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Again, that's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of Locked On Titans, breaking down the opening press conferences for the Titans' new offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll, and defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley. And again, Gus Bradley had a very interesting thing to say about the Tennessee Titans' edge rush spots, which obviously are very important going forward. Before we dive in, I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. Again, it's your team every day. But with that being said, again, Tennessee Titans fans mostly know that one of the biggest needs on this team, and I'm going to rank the Titans' biggest needs on tomorrow's show, barring that there's no big-time news, but one of the Titans' biggest needs, got to be one of the top two, is that edge rusher. You could maybe consider Femi Oladejo in there. I think there's a better chance that he plays like a Sam linebacker role, which in some ways is an edge rusher, but the Titans need two edge rushers out of this offseason, whether it's free agency or the draft. But what are they actually looking for at edge rusher? That has been a big conversation. Do they want a pure pass rusher like a Will McDonald or a Jermaine Johnson, which are guys that Robert Saleh was part of drafting in New York? Do they want more big-bodied, physical edge rushers like Robert Saleh had last year in San Francisco with Yetur Gross-Matos and Sam Okwe-Anonu and Clelin Ferrell, and you could even put Nick Bosa in that group, although he kind of gives you the best of both worlds. That's why he was the second overall pick in the draft when he came out, right? Bosa is an absolute freak of nature. But what do they actually want? Well, the answer might be both. The answer might be both. And Gus Bradley had this to say at his opening press conference about the edge rusher.
Just talking in general terms, I think that one end is maybe an end on first and second down, and then might have the ability to slide inside on third down, where the other end is maybe a true rusher. He's on the end, edge, first and second down, and third down as well.
And in the dirt most of the time?
That's what we're looking at, all those things right now. What's the best for our personnel, and, we're in the beginning stages of just looking at that big picture.
So there are a couple of different ways to take this, right? He talks about a bigger edge, a more physical edge who could play on the edge on early downs and then kick inside on third down. Well, if you're paying attention to the NFL draft, who does that sound like? Rueben Bain. That's exactly the kind of player that Rueben Bain can be. He's a big physical edge on the edge, who plays with his hands, destroys blocks, powerful against the run. And then there are some people who think, because of the arm length concerns with Rueben Bain, that he would be better playing on the inside and that rushing from the interior might actually be what he does best at the next level. Well, if the Titans have an edge position within their defense, which to me is the strong side edge rusher, if you have that, well, Rueben Bain fits perfect then, because he can be on the edge on first and second down, set the edge against the run, be physical, make run stops, do all that. And then his arm length concerns aren't as big of an issue if you let him rush from the interior next to Jeffrey. Imagine Jeffrey Simmons. I showed you guys in the Robert Saleh scheme video that I did over at Tic Tac Titans, which I'm not just trying to plug my other YouTube channel here, but come on, what are you doing if you're not subscribed to the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel? I did a 40-minute video on Robert Saleh's defensive scheme to break down all the different positions, what people do, what he does schematically with his zone coverages. Like, if you're not watching that kind of stuff, what kind of fan are you? That's what I have to ask. Like, don't we want to learn what's going on? Don't we want to know football? You know what I mean? So you guys got to check that out. But in that video, I showed multiple examples of TT twists. That's tackle, twist stunts, where they're literally looping around each other and crossing each other to cause havoc up the middle for offenses. Imagine Rueben Bain setting the edge on early downs, preventing runs from getting to the perimeter, darting in to make tackles for loss, taking on pullers and condensing the space and gap runs, and then running TT stunts with Jeffrey Simmons on the interior. Imagine that for a second. I mean, whoa. That would be disgusting. So Rueben Bain is a perfect fit for that description right there. But then the other description that Gus Bradley gave was, we want a pure 3-down edge, maybe more of a speed guy who's just a pure pass rusher. Now, in my opinion, and as you guys know from listening to the show, I am not as high on David Bailey as others who cover the draft. I think Arvell Reese and Rueben Bain are significantly higher for me than David Bailey out of Texas Tech. I think that he is slight in the lower half. He's not good against the run. He wins with speed more often than anything else at the college level. He uses speed to power off of that. And I don't think that you're going to be able to win with speed as often against NFL offensive tackles. I don't think that the lower half and the power that he has is going to be as translatable at the NFL level, where the offensive tackles are better athletes and stronger. I just don't think that David Bailey is going to be as good of a pass rusher at the NFL level as he was in college, because he doesn't have the dip and the bend to get under offensive tackles with that speed. You can fire off real fast, and then if you dip under, like Harold Landry was so good at for so long, now you got guys beat. But if you don't have that dip, then offensive tackles are going to be able to get their hands on you, and they're going to be able to stop you from taking advantage of the speed. So I am not as high on David Bailey as others. So when I heard that, I saw a lot of people online saying, oh, David Bailey is the pure pass rusher. But in my mind, I hear, oh, they could be out on the edge all 3 downs. I don't think of David Bailey. I think David Bailey is more of a designated pass rusher. You're going to hear that term a lot from me during the draft season. A DPR, designated pass rusher. Think about a guy like Cassius Howe. Think about a guy like R. Mason Thomas. Or R. Thomas Mason. I don't know. Whatever. You guys know who I'm talking about. The guy out of Oklahoma. 6 foot. Both of those guys I just mentioned, Howe and R. Thomas Mason, or R. Mason Thomas, whatever. Both of those guys are small. They're like Harold Landry guys. They're 6'2". They don't have great length. They're really fast off the line of scrimmage. They have great dip and great bend underneath of offensive tackles that allow them to get there. Like, I think that David Bailey is closer to those guys than people want to admit. And all of those guys can't play on early downs. Like, I don't think that David Bailey can set the edge against the run. He improved in run defense at Texas Tech. He got better, but in years before, coaches didn't even put him on the field for rundowns because he was so bad at it. And I just don't believe, like, in college, all of your measurements are boosted. So he's listed at 245, 250, whatever. I think realistically, he's playing more at 230, 235. Now, again, you could say Robert Saleh drafted Will McDonald. He was a smaller edge with speed. So maybe they think that David Bailey can do that. All right, fair enough. And if they're looking at one of their defensive end spots and saying, hey, they're on the outside on early downs and they kick inside on passing downs, well, you're still going to need an edge rusher to be the other edge when that edge kicks inside, right? So maybe that is where David Bailey comes in. He can be your designated pass rusher early on, and then hopefully as he builds strength and adds mass to his lower frame, he can be more of a three-down guy. But saying, oh, Gus Bradley said one of the DNs is going to be outside on early downs and kick inside, and the other defensive end is a three-down player who's more of a pass rusher, that's David Bailey. I don't think so. He's not a three-down player right now, in my opinion. And I don't think that he has the ability to add a bunch of mass onto his lower body to be more physical against the run and set the edge. Like, I just don't see that. Okay? So some people are saying, oh, David Bailey, this is David Bailey. They're talking about David. And I don't know. I don't buy that. I don't see that. But regardless of what I think it means and who I think it could be about and all of that, they are telling us they want more of a pure pass rusher on one side, and they want more of a physical edge setter on the other side. And as somebody who typically favors variety in your position groups, I want my wide receiver room to look like a basketball team. I want the big, tall, big-bodied red zone threat guy. I want the small, shifty, yards after catch wide receiver. I want the point guard all the way up to the center in my wide receiver room. Similarly, with safety, I like having a guy who can patrol the back end as a deep free safety and play center field. And then have a safety who's kind of a mixture between a box and a deep guy. And then have more of a box safety that's physical down. I love variety in my position groups. That's how I see it. So from that perspective, David Bailey would be able to provide one of those roles in terms of the versatility of the edge group. So as I say and have said for the last week or so, I just think that the Titans actually do prefer David Bailey over Ruben Bain and Arvell Reese. I think if the Titans could take any player in the draft, they would take David Bailey. That would be their number one pick if they had the number one pick. Now, they would trade back if they had the number one pick because Mendoza, yes. But if the Titans just, hey, you could take any player you want, I think it would be David Bailey. But I don't think that what Gus Bradley said means that David Bailey is a perfect fit because I don't see him as a three-down player. But anyway, all of those draft discussions, player discussions, all that will continue here on the Locked On Titans podcast throughout the next couple of months. So make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. But with that being said, I want to talk a little bit more about these comments about players on the roster and how people are misinterpreting this as confirming that some of these players will be back on the team. Plus, the Titans already lost a coach from Robert Saleh's coaching staff, initial coaching staff, and it looks like they're actually going to lose two.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. So there's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ETHOS.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about Brian Daboll confessing his love for Cam Ward at quarterback. We talked about Gus Bradley getting very specific with the edge rusher position. But now I want to talk about some misconceptions coming out of those press conferences and some coaches that look like the Titans are going to lose off their initial staff. Before I dive in, do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. Want to remind you guys about the Locked On Titans Everydayer Club. It's $5 a month, literally the cost of a cup of coffee. The show's free all year round, so throwing in $5 a month to support the show is greatly appreciated. And it's not just like you're throwing in $5. You get ad-free versions of this podcast in your podcast feed. You get added to a Locked On Titans group chat with a bunch of other Locked On Titans everydayers. You get access to a Locked On Titans merch store where you can get some Locked On Titans gear like this shirt that I'm wearing. Make sure that you check it out. Go to lockedontitans.supercast.com or you can go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. But again, I'm already seeing it. The clickbait accounts on all the social medias are saying Calvin Ridley will be back. Tony Pollard will be back. Gus Bradley talked about T'Vondre Sweat and give him a clean slate. Oh, you're wrong, Tyler. See, they're going to keep T'Vondre Sweat. Well, let me remind you that Gus Bradley and Brian Daboll also said, hey, I'm not going to get into roster decisions, but these are my thoughts. Just because Brian Daboll said, I think Calvin Ridley's a good player, I'm excited to work with him. Just because Brian Daboll said, Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears in the backfield are good backs that get yards. Just because Gus Bradley said, T'Vondre Sweat, I want to give him a fresh start. That doesn't confirm anything. They aren't the general manager. Now, I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I'm going to be right. They're going to cut Pollard, trade Sweat. Now, I don't know what they're going to do. All we can do is talk about what they might do, okay? I don't have the crystal ball to say, this is what Mike Borgonzi is going to do. I have my sources, you know what I mean? But, I'm just telling you that just because these coaches talk about players who they're asked about and players who are currently on the roster does not mean that they're going to be on the roster and that their status on the team is set. That's not what's happening here. Do you think, ask yourself this logically, do you think that in their very first press conference with the team, Brian Daboll or Gus Bradley are going to come out and announce roster decisions for the Titans? Is Brian Daboll going to come out there and be like, oh, you just asked me about Calvin Ridley. Well, I really enjoy Calvin Ridley, but we are cutting him. So don't ask me any more questions. He's going to be cut. Do you think that they're going to do that in their first press conference with the team or in any press conference for that matter? Why would the offensive coordinator be the guy to deliver that message? Do you think that Gus Bradley is going to come out and say, well, I know you just asked me about T'Vondre Sweat, but he's going to be traded, so I'm not going to answer that question. Oh, thank you. That stuff is not going to happen. No coach is going to do that until the move is actually made. And if a coach were to have those conversations, it's going to be Robert Saleh, not one of his coordinators. So I feel like there's just this false level of expectations sometimes, and people make something out to mean something that it doesn't really mean. That's pretty clear to me. So I just wanted to speak my piece on that before I talk about this. The Titans are already getting coaches poached. Travis Smith, the Titans pass rush specialist, who I was very excited about. It'd be cool to have a pass rush specialist on the team. He already got poached to be a position coach with the Las Vegas Raiders, which makes sense. When you're a pass rush specialist who doesn't actually have your own position group, of course you would want to go be the outside linebacker coach for another team. So Travis Smith was hired away by the Las Vegas Raiders. But now, I think it was the linebacker coach is what he was hired to be. But now we're hearing that Ben Bloom, who was the Titans' outside linebacker coach over the last couple of years, who was retained by Robert Saleh, he might get hired to be a position coach for the Raiders as well. Freaking Raiders, man, trying to pillage our new coaching staff. Get out of here, Raiders. They are Raiders at the end of the day, so I guess it makes sense that they're rating the coaching staff. But at the end of the day, let me say this. Two different things. Number one, it's good that the Titans have coaches that other teams want to take. That's a good sign, especially they're not even position coaches. They're like defensive assistants, and other teams want them to be their position coaches. That's a good sign for the talent that Robert Saleh is willing to keep around and willing to add to his staff. That's a good sign overall. But number two, let me say this, which is what is most important probably. What I did there was bury the lead, which my journalism professors in college would be turning over in their classrooms. I don't know if they're still alive or not. I don't keep up with them, but, just in case. But anyways, number two, they weren't position coaches. Yes, it would be nice to have the pass rush specialist. Yes, having Ben Bloom, who is also a guy who's deeply involved in pass rush planning and everything like that. Yes, that would be good. But did we lose Aaron Whitecotton? No. These aren't guys who were position coaches, and now the Titans have to scramble to fill those roles. They were luxury roles. Pass rush specialist and defensive quality control. And, it's not fun to have these coaches rated off the staff before you ever get to, actual coaching. But at the end of the day, they didn't take anybody all that important. And if those guys were that important to the Titans coaching staff, they wouldn't have been in defensive assistant roles. They would have had their own position group. So it's not great, but it's not like something super detrimental either. But with that being said, that is going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Titans. Thank you all so much for tuning in. A bunch of content out there for you guys this week. Bonus episodes every single day. I know you guys loved that Tua trade video. If you didn't see it, you got to go back and check that out. It's got everybody buzzing, and now everybody's talking about it online. I may be a lot of things, but one thing that I am for sure is the straw that stirs this drink. All I got to do is make a quick 1-minute video, and I'll have every Titans content creator out there talking about the topic. So you guys know where the heart of Tennessee Titans conversations actually starts, and it's here with me on Locked On Titans. But with that being said, again, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed, throw a thumbs up on the video, a tighten up down in the chat if you're watching on YouTube. That's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I'm your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.